Welcome. My name is Jason, and in this video, we're going to be discussing coffee and how coffee is the most misunderstood substance on the planet. Despite what you've been told and what you might believe, you don't need coffee. You don't need to wake up. You don't need it to get work done. You don't need it to get more motivated, and you don't need it to be more creative. In fact, coffee is doing the opposite. It's actually hurting you, your life, and your health. And this is coming from somebody who drank coffee for over 3 decades, every single day, multiple cups per day. And over the past couple of years, I was drinking 700 milligrams per day. And I know that's a lot. So when I tell you that I quit coffee over 1 year ago, in fact, I quit caffeine over 1 year ago, this could not have happened without a ton of compelling information and data. We're going to get into that right now. And I've broken this video into 6 components. Think of it as appetizers, the main course, and a couple of desserts at the end. Let's get started. Here are some facts about coffee that you need to know about. You probably don't know about. 7 out of 10 Americans consume coffee weekly. 62% of Americans drink it daily. Your average American coffee consumer drinks over 3 cups of coffee every single day. Coffee is the second most traded commodity in the entire world, second only to oil. The world generates around $473 billion in coffee revenue. 92% of American adults consume caffeine in some form, whether it's coffee, tea, energy drinks, soda, or even dark chocolate. 400 million cups of coffee are consumed in the U.S. every single day. And by the way, that's 1/5 of the world's coffee consumption coming from the U.S. alone. So where on earth did I get this crazy idea that coffee's not good for me? In fact, where did I get the idea that coffee's bad for me? Well, kind of an unexpected story. It's kind of funny, actually. One day, I'm sitting on my living room couch next to my 7-year-old son at the time, Callan. He turns and looks at me and says, "Hey, Daddy, would you stop drinking so much coffee?" Of course, this confuses the heck out of me, so I turn and look at him and I say, "Bro, what are you talking about? Why do you ask?" And he says to me, "Well, Mommy says coffee's not good for you." In fact, he said coffee's bad for you, for me, for everybody. And in fact, he gave a specific issue that Mommy has with coffee. And we're going to talk about that in the top 10 reasons why I don't. In fact, it's the number 1 reason why I don't drink coffee. So where does coffee's so-called energy really come from? And you bet I air quoted energy. So you and I both have chemical compounds in our brain. It's called adenosine. It acts as a neurotransmitter. Its job is to regulate our sleep-wake cycle. So what it does is it binds or sticks to these adenosine receptors. And when this happens, this causes us to experience fatigue, sleepiness, until we eventually just fall asleep. The caffeine does a couple of things. It comes in and it outcompetes the adenosine. It actually will cling to those adenosine receptors, preventing the adenosine from performing its function. When this happens, the caffeine stimulates and releases dopamine, causing you and I to experience motivation and pleasure. Also, caffeine will stimulate your adrenal glands, and this causes the release of 2 things, cortisol and epinephrine. These are both stress hormones. By the way, epinephrine, just a fancy word for adrenaline. This makes us feel more alert. So you see the caffeine, it's not actually producing or creating any real actual energy. Rather, it's doing a couple of things that mimic energy. It's fake energy. You want to call it that. It is actually that. It suppresses your fatigue. It's essentially borrowing energy from your future by suppressing that fatigue. It's kind of like a credit card for your energy that, by the way, you will have to pay back one day. In fact, that day, one day, is probably today in the form of a mid-afternoon caffeine crash. And it also stimulates our stress hormones. So you see, caffeine's not producing actually real energy, but due to persuasive marketing, people associate this feeling with energy and also people's misconceptions. There you have it. All right, so now let's get into the main course, the main event, the top 10 reasons why I don't drink caffeine. And the first one, number 10, is basically the origin story of caffeine. That's why I include it in this video. Number 10, caffeine is toxic, at least it is in the wild. You see, caffeine is a natural stimulant. It's found in the leaves, seeds, and fruits of over 60 different plant species. Caffeine is also a poison in its natural environment. You see, the caffeine is a defense mechanism for the plant. When consumed by insects, the caffeine will either kill, paralyze or disrupt the insect's ability to reproduce. I know, pretty harsh, right? Caffeine will also kill competing foliage that's attempting to grow next to the caffeine plant. So right out of the gate, nature is telling us caffeine is a poison. Number 9, caffeine can ruin your sleep quality. You see, caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours, meaning 6 hours after you consume it, half of it is still in your system. Caffeine has a quarter life of 12 hours, meaning 12 hours after you consume it. Okay, put it this way. You consume coffee at noon. At midnight, you still have a quarter of it in your system. So this basically is going to guarantee that you're not going to get the high quality, deep, and restorative sleep that your body so desperately needs. You see, your sleep quality is one of the biggest single predictors of your overall health as well as all-cause mortality. There's a saying among sleep experts, the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life. Furthermore, your body is composed of something called natural killer cells. These are like your body's special forces. They're like the SEALs, the Rangers, the Delta, the Green Berets of your body. What their job is to identify, to attack, and to destroy anything harmful in your body. So you see, when you get lack of high quality of sleep, you're drastically reducing the effectiveness of your natural killer cells. By getting inferior sleep quality, you're increasing your chances of both sickness and disease. Number 8. So what about all these caffeine studies? What about all these coffee studies that they basically declare that coffee is really good for you, that it's a health enhancer, it makes you live longer, reduces the chance of diseases and sickness. Well, here's the thing. Caffeine studies are funded by very, very, very large companies that are motivated by self-interest and profits. They have misleading conclusions based on correlation and not causation. Any health benefits that coffee drinkers have can easily be explained by the enormous amounts of antioxidants present in coffee. You see, coffee actually has one of the largest antioxidant profiles of any food on the planet. And in case you're just a little bit rusty on your antioxidant knowledge, that's okay. We're going to bring you up to speed in about 30 seconds. So, antioxidants protect your body from the harmful effects of oxidation, which is the process of where free radicals, which are unstable molecules, can cause damage to our bodies. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals by donating electrons, preventing them from reacting with other molecules and causing chain reactions. Here's the most important part of this part. This helps to maintain cellular integrity and function, contributing to overall health and disease prevention. But it is worth noting you can also get antioxidants in your decaf coffee, as well as many other fruits and foods, actually, like blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, beets, and many, many more. And so here's the thing. I would say most coffee drinkers get the majority of their antioxidants, if not nearly all their antioxidants, from only their coffee. They're not getting it from their food. They're not getting it from their diet, because most people in the U.S., I think it's like 75-80% of Americans consume something called the Standard American Diet. And yeah, here's the acronym to the Standard American Diet. It's so fitting, actually. So what this means is people that eat processed food or highly processed food. So you have this group over here that eats like crap. They consume a ton of coffee. And then you have this group over here, which consumes no caffeine, is not getting any antioxidants from their caffeine because they're not consuming it. They're also not getting it from their food. So of course, when you compare this group to this group's going to have better results, without a doubt, unequivocally. But you want to be in the third group, actually. You don't want to be in either one of these groups. You want to be in group 3. I'm calling it group 3. That's the group that doesn't drink caffeinated coffee, that also eats foods that are rich in antioxidants, such as the foods I mentioned. And then if you want to throw in the decaf coffee, in fact, I'm going to specify in just a moment what type of decaf coffee, great. Then you're going to get it from foods and coffee, and then, I don't know why I did this, but then you kind of get them together. I like marry them up or whatever into your body. Like they meet and have a matrimony, the food and the coffee. the decaf coffee, then you're going to get a ton of antioxidants and you're going to be fine. Well, can't guarantee that, but you know what? You're going to improve your chances. Number 7, caffeine is a psychoactive drug. A psychoactive drug is a chemical substance that changes your brain function. It results in alterations in perception, mood, consciousness, cognition, or behavior. You see, caffeine is actually the world's most highly consumed psychoactive drug. It's estimated that a whopping 80% of the world consume it daily. Here are a list of the other psychoactive drugs, and get ready because this list is a doozy. Alcohol, nicotine, marijuana, heroin, LSD, and cocaine, and let's not forget the world's favorite psychoactive drug, caffeine. Now, if you're learning this for the very first time, it should be quite alarming to you. If you already are aware of this information and you're not concerned, you just might want to give it some more thought. Just to drive this point home, what's one of the first things you do every morning after you thought you had a terrific night's sleep of, say, 7, 8, even 9 hours? What's one of the first things you do every single morning after you wake up? I mean, of course, use the restroom, but then what? Yes, you march right into your kitchen, brew yourself a cup of a psychoactive drug so that you can wake up. People, why do we consider this normal behavior? Well, I'm going to tell you why. It's because it's socially acceptable. I mean, think about it. Who drinks coffee? You do. I did for 30 years. Your friends do. Your family does. Your coworkers do. The companies you work for brew you guys free cups of coffee. Some churches, the church I go to, brews free cups of coffee after service. Companies, many companies sell caffeinated products that make them a ton of money. You have the government, the CDC, are they pro-coffee? Of course they are. Hospitals, doctors, are they, the majority of them pro-coffee? Of course they are. There's this guy, his name's Stephen Chernisky. He's a scientist. He's a best-selling author. He wrote the book Caffeine Blues, which is basically like the Bible of exposing coffee. Anyways, I heard him in an interview tell this pretty funny story. I thought it was funny, and more importantly, it's got a really strong point to it. So, imagine you go to your doctor's office, and your doctor prescribes you a powerful psychoactive drug. But before you leave the doctor's office, you pause. You look at your prescription, and you turn to the doctor and say, "Hey, doc, this prescription doesn't say how much I should consume." And your doctor just looks at you and says, just take as much as you want. How do we describe the habit of repeatedly consuming a substance and either being unable or unwilling to stop? Yes, addiction. And I know, I am not trying to make anybody feel bad about drinking coffee. I drank coffee for over 3 decades. I've told you that many times. If I could reverse the clock and I could have been shown this video or a video like this, if somebody would have told me this earlier, that would have saved me a lot. It would have saved me a lot. So I just want you to be equipped with information so that you can decide what's best for you. That's it. Number 7, coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed foods on the planet. Okay, so I'm going to read this because I did not memorize this, but I think you guys will be okay with this. So you need to know there's something called the Dirty Dozen list. This is a list of the most heavily sprayed foods on the entire planet. Here's the list. Strawberries, spinach, kale, collard greens, mustard greens, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, grapes, bell and hot peppers, cherries, and blueberries. Here's an excerpt from this article written by this guy named Stephen Salisbury. He's an expert on things surrounding coffee and health. He's also co-founder of Purity Coffee. And I'm going to read this, and I quote, "The number of pesticides sprayed on coffee far exceeds those used on the fruits and vegetables listed in the EWG 2018 Dirty Dozen. And coffee is consumed in greater volumes every day than any other of the 12 varieties of produce on this list." So, right out of the gate, Andrew makes a great point. So not only is coffee sprayed more than the foods that are considered sprayed a lot, like the top 12 in the world, it's sprayed more than that. But also, coffee is the one you drink every day. It's the one you consume multiple times a day. Okay. I was going to say cups, but times a day. And I say coffee, but again, I mean caffeine. When I say coffee, I mean caffeine. Who's consuming peaches daily and multiple times a day? Who's consuming collard greens every day, multiple times a day? I mean, are there some people out there that are eating blueberries every day? Sure. Not very many. The majority of people are not doing that, but what they are doing is they're consuming coffee every single day, multiple times a day. Crazy. Andrew goes on, and I quote again. Countries of origin are responsible for regulating their own chemical usage, and the United States does not test or regulate the amount of residual pesticides found on imported coffee. This leaves consumers vulnerable to a number of both known and unknown substances, including chemicals that have been banned from the use in American agriculture. This is mind-boggling. So we are consuming substances we don't even know what's in them, and we know some of them, and we know they're bad. And the other ones we don't know what they are, but they're probably worse. And just so you know how much of the coffee that we consume in the U.S. is imported? Yeah, all of it. I mean, 99%, if not more. I mean, do some people love Kona coffee from Hawaii? Sure. When's the last time you had a cup of Kona coffee? No. You know where coffee is coming from? South America, Africa. Sorry, I was pausing there. In Asia Pacific. I mean, actually, there are more places. Here's the top 10 list of most imported coffees into the U.S., what countries they origin from. And actually, there's a couple surprising ones on there. Canada and Sweden. Wow. Okay, that's cool. But nonetheless, you know what that's not? That's not the U.S. That's imported coffee. So that is really important that you know that. And I quote again from Andrew Salisbury. Of all coffees worldwide, the World of Organic Agriculture 2016 reported that only 8.5% are certified organic, which the other 91.5% are heavily treated with pesticides, synthetic herbicides, and other chemicals. In case you're wondering, what's the problem with pesticides? I've heard about them. I don't really know what that means. I kind of was like that for a while. I actually was like that for a while. I'm pretty sure I knew. In fact, I was like, I'm pretty sure they're bad. I just don't know why. Anyways, I'm going to read you this right here so that you can have some kind of context of why you don't want pesticides, especially in something you're eating every freaking day. Pesticides can be harmful to human health. Okay. What's that mean? Causing both acute effects like skin irritation and nausea, as well as chronic issues such as cancer and neurological damage. They also pose a risk to the environment, contributing to pollution and diversity loss. So anyways, the ones that stuck out to me was like the cancer one and neurological diseases. So there you go. Pesticides are not good, and I understand, like, they kill the insects and they enable food to grow. I get it. I get there's probably some net benefit maybe in there, but if you can have organic or heavily treated, which one are you going to choose? So, question: what type of coffee do you drink? Organic or heavily treated? Number 5, caffeine can increase your chances of miscarriage. One study in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that women who consume over 300 milligrams of caffeine per day had a 50% chance higher of a miscarriage. The exact mechanism by which the caffeine increases the chance of miscarriage is not fully understood, but it's believed that the caffeine may interfere with the development of the placenta or the fetus's blood flow. Now, some doctors will advise that drinking between 1 and 300 milligrams of caffeine per day is safe. However, the most popular cup at Starbucks has 300 milligrams of caffeine. That would put you right on the doorstep. And this is a perfect segue into point number 4. Number 4, caffeine reduces the blood and oxygen flow to your brain. And by the way, this is the whole reason why I made this video. This is the issue that my son had with coffee. So let's take a moment to appreciate the importance of the oxygen supply to your brain. Your brain requires about 20% of your body's overall total oxygen supply, despite your brain being made up of only 2% of your body's overall weight. Your brain's demand for oxygen is crucial to your cognitive function. You see, caffeine acts as a vasoconstrictor, which means it causes your blood vessels to constrict or get smaller. And this causes the blood flow to your brain to be reduced by between 20 and 30%. It's even been documented at least one time, on TV nonetheless, to reduce blood and oxygen flow to the brain by 52%. Crazy. And when coffee drinkers try to stop drinking coffee or forget to drink coffee, they often experience headaches. This is caused from caffeine withdrawals. You know what causes these headaches? The blood vessels dilate. They get bigger. They go back to their normal size. This increased flow in the blood to the brain is what causes these headaches. In my mind, I'm just picturing it's like the brain saying, yo, I need this stuff. Stop depriving me of oxygen. And by the way, one of the most serious consequences of poor blood flow to the brain is the increased chance of a stroke. A stroke occurs when the blood supply to a part of the brain is interrupted or reduced, depriving the brain tissue of vital oxygen and nutrients. Number 3, caffeine puts you in fight or flight mode. When you consume caffeine, it arouses your sympathetic nervous system, and this causes the release of your stress hormones cortisol and epinephrine. We talked about this earlier in the video. The increase in your cortisol is what puts you into fight or flight mode, and this is your body's survival mechanism. Anytime you're confronted with either a real or even a perceived danger, such as, let's just say you're on a hike in the woods, and all of a sudden you have that eerie feeling that somebody is watching you. So what do? You pause, you do a 360 of the landscape, and then of course, there you go. You make eye contact with a bear, with a mountain lion, with a wolf, whatever. Immediately, your fight or flight mode has now been activated, and your only goal in life right now is to survive the next 15 minutes. Now, of course, you want to survive minutes 1 through 14 as well. The point is, you're not looking very far into the future. You're not thinking about, what am I having for dinner? Who am I going to go out with tomorrow? Where am I going to go on vacation this summer? You're just not thinking that. As I heard one guy put it, you know what your brain's not doing during fight or flight mode? Yeah, it's not doing Needless to say, most people consuming caffeine are not in a life-threatening situation. Rather, they're simply out on their porch, sipping a cup of coffee, relaxing in the morning, or maybe they're meeting a friend at a coffee shop. Perhaps they're sitting at their desk reading emails. They're not in a life-threatening situation. Make no mistake about it. When you consume caffeine, your cortisol levels are significantly raised, putting you in a stressed state of mind. And if you're anything like I was, you have no idea. You've been consuming caffeine for so long. This is normal to you. This is what normal feels like. Now, here's the problem. When you consume caffeine, you're putting yourself in a perpetual state of fight or flight mode. It's not just happening for 15 minutes at a time or until your danger level has been lowered. No, this is happening for a good portion of your day. Number 2, caffeine deactivates your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is like the CEO of your brain. It's responsible for logical, rational, and deep thinking. It has the ability to weigh the long-term benefits and consequences of your decisions. During the fight or flight mode, your prefrontal cortex is essentially being deactivated. And this is because the stress hormones released during this response impair the prefrontal cortex's ability to function, leading to a shift in the more emotional part of your brain, the amygdala. Essentially, your prefrontal cortex goes offline and the amygdala takes control, leading to more impulsive and instinctual reactions. The fight or flight response also reduces your cognitive flexibility, meaning the ability to adapt to new situations or to change strategies. And chronic or prolonged stress can lead to structural changes in the prefrontal cortex, further impairing its function. And number 1, caffeine reduces the hormone DHEA in your brain and your body. And by the way, This number one is my number one because it's Stephen Chernisky's number one. He wrote the book Caffeine Blues because he was motivated by this fact. So what exactly is DHEA? Well, it's only the most comprehensive repair signal to your brain and your body. Throughout your day, your body and your brain undergoes a lot of stress, a lot of wear and tear. Imagine this. Imagine your car in one day had a fender bender. The window got broken. Somebody scratched it. Somebody wrote graffiti on it. The gas ran low. The oil ran low. Even the windshield wiper ran low. Imagine as you got good quality sleep, your car would just repair itself. Well, that's kind of like how DHEA works for your body. The repair hormone DHEA is produced in your adrenal glands. You know what also is produced in your adrenal glands? Yeah, cortisol, stress hormones. But here's the thing. Your adrenal glands can only produce one or the other at one time. It cannot do both. It can only produce DHEA or it produces cortisol. Not both at the same time, though. To provide you with a very simple metaphor, you can either drive your car or you can go swimming. But you can't drive your car and go swimming at the same time. You have to choose. You have to pick one. You cannot do both. So essentially, when you're drinking caffeine, when you choose to drink caffeine, you're also choosing at the same time to either produce cortisol, or if you don't choose to drink caffeine, you're choosing to produce DHEA. So really, the ball is in your court every single day. You want to focus in on stress, or you want to focus in on repairing the body and the brain. Additionally, DHEA is also referred to as the hormone of resilience. And what is resilience? Yeah, it's the ability to bounce back from misfortune when things don't go your way. When things don't go your way, how do you want to respond? Do you want to fold like a lawn chair, or do you want to respond well with calmness, strategy, etc.? There was this study done with, well, really, it was a test for Navy SEALs first. This test is the Navy SEALs would be jumping or be thrown into water. Their hands are tied. Maybe their feet are tied. I forget all the details. But the point is, maybe that might even be blindfolded. The point is, they're in a bad situation. It's rough. It's tough. It's difficult. They have to go find oxygen in the bottom of the pool, okay? So some SEALs passed, some SEALs failed. But you know what's the interesting thing is? They ran the blood work of the SEALs, both that passed and failed afterwards. And you know what they determined? It's incredible. All the SEALs that passed had very, very high levels of DHEA in their body, in their system. All the SEALs that failed the test had a very, very low level of DHEA in their body. I thought that was fascinating. So take that into the real world. So now that we've just covered the 10 reasons why I don't drink caffeine, now we're going to talk about how I got off caffeine. And you know what? It's much simpler than you probably can imagine. So I told you I was drinking between 4 and 5 cups of coffee every 24 hours. Let's just say it was 5. And sometimes I'd be drinking coffee at like 7 o'clock at night, getting ready to go to the gym and, late at night. Anyways, and I thought I needed it as a performance enhancer. So here's what I did. So like I said, I think I said this. Before I decided to quit coffee, I decided I wanted to reduce caffeine. So this is what I did. Immediately, I went from 5 to 4 cups of coffee every 24 hours, and I did that for about a week, okay? Then I went from 4 cups to 3 cups of coffee every 24 hours, did that for about a week. I told you, it's not a fast process. You can make it faster. I did it this way. The next week, I went from 3 to 2 cups of coffee every 24 hours. The following week, I did that for a week. The following week, I went from 2 to 1 cup of coffee every 24 hours, about 9 o'clock in the morning. Then once I finished it, by 9:30 or whatever, I wouldn't have coffee until the next morning at 9. So what I do next? Did I quit after this? No, I didn't. I went from 1 cup of coffee to 3/4 of a cup of coffee. Did that not for a week, maybe like 2-3 days. Then I went from 3/4 to half a cup of coffee. Same thing, 2-3 days. Then, I didn't quit yet. I went from a half a cup of coffee to a quarter. We're talking like this much coffee in the bottom of the cup every 24 hours. I mean, what's that, a few sips? Anyways, did that for a couple days. And yes, finally, I go one day, I rip the Band-Aid off. I decide this is the day. So I don't drink coffee for an entire day. No headaches, no brain fog, nothing. I was at my baseline, my natural baseline. So if I were you, if I were giving advice, if you asked me for my advice, I would say do it this way. Definitely don't quit cold turkey. Now, do some people do that? Sure. Do they have headaches and brain fog, like mass brain fog and mass headaches? Usually. Most likely you will. You don't have to go as slowly as I went. I mean, I did it for like a month, 5 weeks, whatever. The point is, go nice and slow, figure out how much you consume, and just start reducing it day by day by day, or week by week by week, or whatever. And eventually, dude, you're going to kick the habit, okay? You can do this. I believe you can do this. I know you can do this. So, how did I feel once I got off caffeine? Well, I'm going to be honest. In the evenings, I did get tired earlier. My body was so used to just suppressing that fatigue, suppressing that adenosine through the caffeine. Yeah, by like 7 o'clock, I'd be kind of sleepy. I would not crash out. You generally close my eyes. As I say, I'm resting my eyes. I'm not taking a nap, which is true. I don't really go unconscious. I just kind of relax on the couch. And I would do that for maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then I would get my second wind, and then I'd be fine until bedtime, whatever my bedtime was. So I did experience that, just to give you a heads up. But you know what? I no longer experience that. Now, am I a year removed from coffee? I am. When did those sleepy evenings start? I'm not really sure, but they did end, and they will end for you if you go through them. So just stick with it. Did I have temptations to go reach for a coffee or an energy drink or something? I did, but I suppressed those urges, and I just kept going full force straight through. And here I am, over a year later, no caffeine.